Hello, everyone. Welcome to Rabbit House Press, our author spotlight. It is November 1st. Happy November 1st. We are doing something special today. We are spotlighting all of our authors, or most of them. We are going to do a reading. I'm now introducing you all to our group here. We have Mike Wilson, who wrote Arranging Deck Chairs on the Titanic. We have Lane Dearinger. Wave, Kevin. Hello. Bad Sex in Kentucky. We have Pamela Dae, who wrote the wonderful After the Race. We have Kay Long Roberts, who has our new poetry collection, Stream. And my name is Erin Chandler, and I have Cinderella Sweeping Up that I'm going to read a bit of later. And our new author, Bruce Lewis, who wrote a wonderful book called JOSHUA Fragmented that's coming out in 2021. We are doing this first group reading from Rabbit House Press authors, and we hope that you all enjoy it. There'll be information about how to buy everyone's books after they read. We are going to begin our reading and conversation with Lane Dearinger. Kevin.
It's nice to be number one. That doesn't happen very often. So
take it away.
Oh, you'd like me to go right ahead and read. All right.
Yes, or introduce your book or say hello.
Yes, my book is Bad Sex in Kentucky, and it is about growing up in Kentucky as a extremely guilt-ridden Catholic gay man or gay boy at the time. But it's about family, and it's about accepting yourself, and it's a little bit about growing older. But this section I'm reading is actually from the high school chapter, and it's just a short part of that, because high school, as for all of us, was complicated. But this is from the high school section of Bad Sex in Kentucky. High school, all around me, sex was the word made fleshy. Sex was talked about in corners, performed in corners, and refined in the back seats of first automobiles, oiled and shining with paste wax. Carburetors and reputations sputtered. Fashion telegraphed interest. Girls with teased hair, militant brasiers, and too much makeup caused a stir. Boys hitched their jeans, strutting and adjusting nature. Everyone longed for a signal that could be understood. Reputations acted as an open code. Some boys were just wild. Some girls were easy. Some went all the way. Girls, of course, had the worst of it. Rumors and whispers, mothers closing doors for private talks, rolling up the skirt waist when leaving the house and dodging the nuns who had been set up to guard the sexual purity of the libidinous daughters of Peyton Place, Marilyn Monroe, Jane Mansfield, and a hybrid of horrors, beautiful and smart, Jane Fonda. At sweaty sock hops, fascinated onlookers formed a wall around an advanced couple, allowing them to dance the forbidden gaiter. On the fringes stood the innocent and the uninformed, the chivalrous, the devout, and the utterly terrified. I was perfectly happy to make room for the Holy Spirit. I was Dominic Savio taking Maria Goretti to the dance at the gym. I knew good girls, and good girls did not ask too many questions, especially with good boys. I apologized to them, one and all. By the time I left high school, I had ways of talking to girls, now women, and of being comfortable in their presence. My manner did not fool the sharp-eyed. He's been around women too much. But I presented my dates with wrist corsages and ran around to open car doors for them. We had dinner at the little inn or the club and ordered chicken cordon bleu. Sometimes we doubled with other couples who disappeared into dark corners and could not be found when it was time to leave. My dates were always home long before their curfews. Mothers liked me. Fathers shook my hand with a firm grip. I lowered my voice in conversation and lowered my head when asked about the current season in sports. Go Cats. Boys, now men, still made me uneasy. They all seemed to know more than I did. They seemed suspicious and impatient with my pretended innocence. It was not pretense. Kevin, said a high school acquaintance, oh, he's basically nice. Basically. Most of my days, I was alone. My sister had married, my brother was somewhere in his own solitude. He had understandably tired of having a little brother clinging to his social coattails and shaken me off. I read everything. I watched old movies on television and knew all the film stars of the 30s and 40s. I knew all about the careers and the manufactured personalities of Katharine Hepburn, Cary Grant, Joan Crawford, Clark Gable, Vivian Leigh, and Bette Davis. I thought Gone with the Wind and Rebecca were the greatest novels and the greatest films ever created. Sentimental, romantic fantasies. I still listened to the original Broadway cast recordings of Broadway musicals, sang along in the privacy of my room, pretended I could dance. I wore the finish off the ashboard floor. I punished the parquet, dancing in the dark. So that's a little bit of that. With one slightly rewritten sentence in there because I looked up at the wrong time.
Oh, that is beautiful.
Thank you.
That is beautiful.
And who can't relate to parts of that?
I taught high school for a long time, and I used to tell my students, if you're not miserable in high school, something's wrong. It just cannot be the high point of your life. Please, God, don't let it be the high point of your life. So I can look back and laugh, but as we know, it was terrible at the time.
For everyone, even the people that look like they had it all together.
Yes, I could not agree more. That's what we discuss at reunions, the ones who say,
Richard Corey.
Yes, yeah. It's odd, when I was teaching, my students always responded to Richard Corey. They knew exactly what that poem was about. Yes, well.
That is beautiful. That is beautiful. I love it. And I teach it in my memoir class all the time, Bad Sex in Kentucky. You all can get this book of Kevin's at rabbithousepress.com. You can get a signed copy if you request one, or you can get it on Amazon or Black Swan Books or Joseph Beth's, Barnes and Noble. Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you.
We're kind of going novel or novella or memoir to poetry back and forth. So now we're going to talk to one of our poets, which is Kay Long Roberts. And she is going to read from her beautifully Rabbit House Press published Stream. The cover is done by Johnny Lackey, and we're so proud of it. It's such a beautiful cover. And the interior is just as fabulous. Kay. So I'm going to spotlight you, and you can take it away.
Thank you. I also enjoyed that reading. I wondered what Catholic school you went to. I went to St. Vincent Academy.
I purposely have not mentioned the name of the school.
Okay, we could share things. So.
I'm going to mute myself now.
Yeah. Well, the title of my book is Stream, and it truly was a book that I just had to write. I started with a couple of verses several years ago and had a faculty member read it, and she said she didn't even know what that was. So I kind of came home, put it back in, didn't show it to anyone for a while. But it's a book that just kept calling me back. And so finally I thought, let's go to write this darn thing. I believe that it came from my unconscious. I read somewhere when I first tried to change from an academic writer to a creative writer that good writing is from the unconscious. So I'm not saying that's good, although I think it is. But anyway, I think this really came from the unconscious. It wasn't something I was searching, but it's just something that inside me wanted to write. And So when I started putting it down, I felt that I was kind of allowing what was pushing me inside, what I wanted to say. So the title of the book is Stream. I'm not a poet. It's creative prose, but many people feel like it is a form of poetry. It's a small book, 58 pages, I think easily read. And I don't know how you were about what you read first, but I was kind of anguished over what I wanted to read, and I wanted to read all of it to you. So I'm just going to kind of read short excerpts from each waypoint. That's what we call it.
Great.
So it starts in the dawn of morning, just every morning, after feeding 2 Tennessee walking horses. I turned my lanky Caucasian X chromosomes to the right of the barn and ambled down a familiar, sloping, stone-colored path, about 65 degrees paved. Sometimes the stream is dry, sometimes filled with rainwater, maybe overflowing, maybe merely wet, or dangerous, but always meandering. Flipping over to the next waypoint, outside this caged field, nature's changing scenery wraps 360 degrees around the field, always lush as I see it. Never mind whether it's red, green, brown, orange, white, or varied colors. My mind settles there for a time, and I remember other days and years. I inhale deeply, lock the precious visions inside of me, and walk forward. Step over to another waypoint. As I exit the path out of the corner of my eye on my left side, I see a glimpse of something out of place, something different. On the ground between 2 rows of dense trees, I turn and see a crumpled mass lying so very still. Around this object, I see mayhem. Many different birds of different sizes swoop down and land atop the lifeless object. They hop, flap, fly up, down, tweet, chirp, squawk, and return. Despite the noisy busyness, the brown object does not move. As I walk forward, the birds leave. A small mouse, maybe other creatures scamper into the woods. So there upon this land is a small deer, a mere teenager lying very still. I move 4 steps closer, and still he doesn't move. I see he is dead. His head is thrust backward, as if he had looked toward the sky and begged for life. His right front foot is turned under him, as if he tried to push himself up. So we go on to a different time. The morning was pleasantly cool, the air clean. I walked with no conscious thought. When I stepped outside the shaded, nested path, I felt the sun strike my shoulders. I slowed my pace to let the warmth stay longer. Another 3 steps, I lay upon the earth, built hand over my head, eyes closed, pleasant rays and sun falling on me. I swear I felt the warmth reach inside me. Now, not so long into this reverie, I sensed shadows pass over me. A brief loss of sunlight. I opened my eyes and saw 3 large, dark turkey vultures, still high in the sky, but coming lower, circling over me. Later in the book, I take a walk with Stream, an exciting walk. And as I approached Stream, I asked, "Are you having an interesting trip?" "Very interesting," Stream said. "Every turn brings mystery." "May I ride along with you?" I asked. "Of course," Stream said. "I gather lots of interesting chaps as I travel, and you look pretty dapper." I was dumbstruck and enthralled. Stream was inviting me. Exciting. And at the end of it, as my eyes saw once again, I found myself lying in a still wet field, empty of traveling waves, and I knew I was lucky. Stream was lost, unseen, beneath the hostile water that invaded our tranquil friendship. I walked away in numbness, not knowing how my friend had fared. And you have to read my book to find the rest of it.
That's really, really beautiful, Kay. I want to show, can you hold it up while I have you spotlit some of the interior some of the interior drawings. They're beautiful drawings, along with this very emotional walk.
These are the waypoints, contents. This is one sketch.
You keep, it keeps freezing. Oh yeah.
Can you
Oh,
see it?
freezing. Yeah, I'll just,
Oh, there it is.
yeah, beautiful, beautiful artist.
That
So
was Peter Sotonis did these.
what is his name again?
Waypoint.
Pete, the sketch artist. What's his name?
Peterson from Louisville.
Oh, great. Okay, beautiful.
This is the deer.
Oh, that was heartbreaking, of course.
I know. I cry every time I read it.
I know. It's beautiful. Well, thank you so much, Kay. Now you all,
I don't know if that worked at all. You could tell me. I'll do it differently next time if it didn't.
that was wonderful. That was beautiful. And I just mailed a few copies from, I'm in North Carolina at the moment, and I mailed some out from here yesterday, but you all can get Kay's book the same way, rabbithousepress.com, or at your local bookstores and Amazon, if that is what you prefer. Okay. Now we're going to
Just
move
wanted to
on.
tell you that we are having people buy it from Ghana, Africa. Jack and I had a mission in Ghana. And so when they read it, they're going to buy it, read it over there.
Oh, wonderful.
Let you know their reaction.
You know, I'm reading the Poison Bible at the moment.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so we're moving on to our next author. Until we publish Bruce's in a few months, this is our first fiction author, Pamela Dae. And After the Race is her book, and I'm very excited to hear her read from this. Pamela, thank you for coming. I know you just moved.
Oh my gosh, it's a mess. I found one wall that was clear and I put a picture up. So
it's beautiful. Well, welcome to your new house.
the boxes are hidden.
Okay.
I am so glad I get to go after Kevin, because After the Race is kind of good sex in Indiana.
Instead of bag sex in Kentucky. Oh, that's funny.
It's the mirror image. This is the libidinous girl, free and enjoying college.
Ah, good.
So I'm going to do two brief sections. I'm going to start with the prologue, and then I'm going to go actually to the end. And not the very end, because I don't want to spoil the ending, but I am going to read from near the end. So this is After the Race. Jake leaned against the door watching her, his hands shoved into the pockets of worn Levi's, one rattlesnake skin boot across the other. Alexandra struggled to draw normal breath, as she'd been struggling since she met Jake, in love with one man, engaged to marry another. The moonlight toiling through one grimy window threw a dusty yellow stripe of light across her ivory sweater. Jake turned up the stereo, silencing the outside world. A bass guitar thrummed beneath Willie Nelson's twang. Xandra, you have to decide before Thanksgiving. It's him or me. Jake's biceps tightened as he pulled a white cotton t-shirt over his head, shadows deepening the ridges of his abdomen. His skin glowed with summer sand warmth, smells of leather, bicycle grease, and laundry. She moved to him, and a low growl rumbled from his chest. He cupped calloused palms around her face, and she slid her palms into the back pockets of his jeans. His breath teased her ear. I won't wait any longer. He touched his lips to hers, and Alexandra tasted salt, beer, chocolate. He pulled her lower lip between his teeth, ran his tongue lightly across the top of her mouth, and then he rolled her hips toward him and blazed a trail down her throat with his fingers. At the base of her throat, he pressed his lips to Alexandra's pounding heartbeat. Alexandra touched the silver St. Christopher medal resting in the center of his chest, nearly the same as Billy's. One is silver and the other gold. but she returned her thoughts, focusing on Jake's skin, his rib cage smooth and taut, gleaming with sweat, his cheeks flushed as she caressed the striations of muscle. I want to reveal myself, to get rid of my doubt and his, to defeat my mother and her goals for my life. I want to tell him I love him, but I can't speak the words. Okay, so now we'll go to the end.
That was wonderful.
So Alex is in a quandary. She has a boyfriend and she has a fiance. And it is Thanksgiving of her senior year in college. And she calls her mother. Well, she calls her father, but her mother answers the phone. "Sweetheart," her mother said, her voice dropping a notch in volume and increasing in poison. "I have not lived this life for you to call and tell me 6 months before your college graduation that you are in trouble. You have no idea what I did for you, Alexandra, the choice I made, the life I could have lived." Alexandra slid with her back against the wall to sit on the floor. "Mama." Jane Ann interrupted. "If you think for 1 second," her words were slow and measured, "that I am going to let you ruin all my plans, you need to reevaluate. My family has waited over 100 years to return to a place of prominence in Washington, and you are the fulfillment. I have done every single thing I know to do to guarantee that. So, I don't know what kind of trouble you find yourself facing, but I do know enough to guess that it involves that cowboy person you tried to introduce us to. Believe me, I get it. I got it immediately." Alex inhaled sharply. "You think I don't know about sex? I did, and I do. And I am telling you that it does not matter how much you want him or he wants you. I will not allow you to throw away the life I have built for you in rutting service to some common lowborn nobody from Podunk, Indiana." Jane Ann paused, took a deep breath. It sounded as if she tucked herself back into bed, the covers rustling slightly. "Alexandra King Alt, whatever trouble you think you may be in, you must be mistaken." Alex swallowed. "Yes, ma'am." Jane Ann hissed her final comment. "And if you truly are, take care of it."
Oh my gosh. Jane Ann, the villainess. She was so, oh my gosh.
She's the evil queen.
She is the evil queen. She is.
I need to go back to Bad Sex in Kentucky and put in work.
Yeah.
I realized I didn't put a single bicep in the whole thing. So.
I know, and you know, there are some pretty graphic sex scenes that in here that are pretty wonderful.
Yeah, we should definitely say that.
Yes. So,
and I also wanted to say and probably the rest of the authors are as well. I'd love to do book clubs, Zoom meetings. I have a playlist that is drawn from the novel that you can create your own soundtrack for your book club, and I can also send you a menu suggestions.
It's set in the 80s and the music throughout is wonderful. And that's a great idea. Yes. We have, it would be a great book for a book club as all of these will. You all, if anybody's out there listening and need a bulk of books, please reach out to me, rabbithousepress@gmail.com, and I will provide you with them. And thank you, Pam. I'm trying to think of where to go next. That was such a heated exchange. And if we go straight to Mike's poetry, it might just blow everybody out of the water. So I think I'm going to read a little essay from my Cinderella Sweeping Up as an interim. This is a collection of essays that I have at Rabbit House Press. And I'm just going to read. I did a column for the Woodford Sun for a couple of years, and a lot of those columns ended up in this essay collection, Cinderella Sweeping Up. And I will read one short one towards the end I thought I would share, called Tuning In. The purpose of art is washing the daily life off our souls. Pablo Picasso. Something inside of us is invisible, but tangible as a brick wall. Oh, you know what I'm going to do? Sorry. I'm going to spotlight myself. I was like, why do something look a little bit different? Spotlight. Okay. All right. Okay. This is called, again, this is from Cinderella Sweeping Up by Erin Chandler, which is my name. Tuning In. The purpose of art is washing the daily life off our souls. Pablo Picasso. Something inside of us is invisible, but tangible as a brick wall. Only the force of light and love which created us knows where our emotions come from. We reach to describe our feelings of joy, pain, fear, and yearning, but these sensitive impressions are as individual as the souls that house them. Every sage from the beginning of time counsels us to heed our instincts, for therein lies the truth. Roger Ebert, the famed movie critic, said, "Your intellect may be confused, but your emotions never lie to you." What a beautiful mystery that a piece of music should bring one man to tears and have no impact whatsoever on another. A song is a sure pathway to that cryptic secret, bypassing the brain like a cold splash of water or sudden immersion into a warm, lavender-smelling bubble bath. Words do not suffice. Words are inconsequential in the presence of genuine emotion. Like Miranda Lambert sings, "When it hurts this good, you got to play it twice." Art is another such conduit. One woman might see a painting that takes her breath away with a comfort that all is well in the world, while the same colorful lines on canvas leave another numb. This line of thought may be argued in a nature versus nurture forum. It is possible that emotional triggers come from memory, but I believe it's deeper than that. These gut reactions most probably have more to do with the very imprint of our souls than just some petty sadness or good day from childhood. I suspect the insatiable inner workings as we take in our surroundings, constantly interpreting sights, sounds, and smells that delight and torment us day in and day out, come from some place our tiny minds cannot fathom. My mother and father hail from different emotional stock. Each clan is distinctively unlike the other. The Chandler side is a demonstrative lot. Daddy's ice blue eyes filled with tears of happiness in an instant. Pappy used to say that God put his bladder up under his eyes. And my grandmother, Mammy, had an uncanny ability to tell a story looking you dead in the face, and in the middle begin to cry, tears flowing but voice unwavering, finish crying, and then complete the story without moving an inch. The Bryant side from my mother is a bit more stoic, less outwardly emotional, but inhabiting oceans of empathy and undying love for each other. I wonder about the emotional gene pool from both sides of my beloved kin. Do we all decide to come here and live out this life together? Was it predetermined that these two groups would learn most as a family at this time in this place? Whatever the case, I count my blessings for each of them every day, even if they did come with an extra helping of sensitivity. I'll close with a quote from John Mark Green, which seems appropriate. "She had a very inconvenient heart. It always insisted on feeling things ever so deeply." Okay. And I'm going to read one more essay, which is just a page long, but it seems appropriate because of this day this era of months. It seems like an era. It's called Meteorological Mood Swing. And I wrote this about a year ago, so it's talking about the beginning of another season, but I think I felt it appropriate for today. Plus, it's pouring down rain here in North Carolina. So the sun did not shine. It was too wet to play. So we sat in the house all that cold, cold, wet day. Dr. Seuss, Cat in the Hat. It was only 2 weeks ago that the sun shone brightly while the wind blew gusts of cool, fresh air across the yard, prompting singular leaves to drop from every direction. It felt new. It felt like everything was about to be new. Now the sky is a sheath of steely gloom for the third day in a row, relentlessly emptying buckets of colorless drudge over the town. This seems far too soon. On the other hand, I suppose it's right on time according to the news. Hurricane Florence is terrorizing the Carolinas and causing massive flooding in our own backyard as well. The stranglehold on the atmosphere jeers that summer is over. I adore a good rain, thunderstorms, and ominous weather. When full green trees blow hard, then harder, then so hard you have to take yourself inside, even though it's terribly exciting. This rain feels different. This rain feels dirty. Makes one want to Google seasonal affective disorder and see whether there's something wrong with us, or if it's just damn depressing for everything to be dark and soaking wet for days on end. If I'm not mistaken, it's come a bit early. I appreciate Kentucky and 4 seasons after being out west for 20 years of year-round sunshine. Although you'd be mistaken if you think California doesn't have very distinct seasons. Subtle as they may seem to an outsider, what's so interesting is how completely different weather affects us all. This time of year really stirs things up on both coasts. About now is when the mysterious Santa Ana winds come blowing into the air. A hot and heavy continuous gust coursing through everything and everybody. I remember like it was yesterday, the feeling of something brewing, the sky a dark hazy yellow and dust picking up at a desperate rate. I stood on the balcony in Beechwood Canyon and felt strangely communal. It was the same hot wind blowing into my Hollywood Hills apartment, the same molecules of dirt and leaves as was rustling up in the road in Silver Lake and down the road in Beverly Hills. Soon every one of us would hear sirens. Raymond Chandler wrote of the Santa Anas, on nights like that, every booze party ends in a fight. Meek little wives feel the edge of the carving knife and study their husbands' necks. Anything can happen. Joan Didion of this season wrote, Los Angeles weather is the weather of catastrophe, of apocalypse. And just as the reliably long and bitter winters of New England determine the way of life as lived there, so the violence and unpredictability of the Santa Ana affect the entire quality of life in Los Angeles, accentuate its impermanence, its unreliability. So while we're in the thick of our own particular meteorological mood swing, we can remember everyone has them. I suggest surrendering to nature. I suggest thanking God we're not begging for someone to come get us in a raft from our living room. I suggest candles, funny movies, and always a good book. I'll try to stay in today, if you will. No need to fret about what's going to happen in March when we have glorious, diverse temperatures and levels of wet and dry to get there. In spite of this sputtering to hold on to summer and a spring we barely had, there'll be good times, laughter, and special memories, even when it's cold, unforgiving, and a steely shade of gray. That is from Cinderella Sweeping Up, which you can also get from rabbithousepress.com, Amazon, Michael Courtney's fabulous Black Swan books, Joseph Beth and other bookstores.
Well, it's a beautiful sunny day here.
It is.
In Woodford County. But I really relate to that change of seasons and going from one sort of mood to another. Fall has always been one of my favorite times. I seem to fall in love in fall.
Falling.
Yeah. So it's always one of my favorite times, but then when you get on the cusp of winter, that's when that mood swing starts really going down.
Yes. And then it's like never ending. Well, we're
very
gonna
dark.
Take our
very dark in November and December here sometimes.
Yes, it is. Okay. Now we have 2 more authors to get to. Thank you all, whoever's listening. Now we're going to go to Mike Wilson, who has a very timely poetry collection. And Mike, you're going to have to hold it up there because I've just sent my last copy out to another lucky reader. Arranging Deck Chairs on the Titanic. And he will now read a few poems for us.
Thank you. Thank you. Arranging Deck Chairs on the Titanic, Political Poetry for a Post-Truth World. I write a lot of poetry, and not all of it's political, but during the past several years, it's been hard not to write things that are political. So the first poem I'm going to read is what's called a golden shovel poem. A golden shovel poem takes another poet's poem, and the rule is the other poet's poem, every word in that poem has to be the last word of each line in your poem. So if you read it vertically, if you read the last line vertically, that is the other poet's poem. So this started out as an exercise. So I'm going to read to you the poem that's the basis of the exercise, and then I'll read the poem. It's a short poem from Arthur Z., who writes sort of haiku type poems. So his poem was, smashing a jewelry case with a hatchet, he grabs a necklace from the splintered glass and races into oblivion. So I took that poem, and it was just intended to be an exercise, but this is what came out. It's called Thumbs Up. He swaggers through china shops, smashing mirrors and manners with a jackhammer hatred worn as jewelry. He hurls parades of hand grenades in case someone thinks he's not strong, grinning with used car salesman sincerity and shuffling a pack of lies, sharpening the hatchet for our collective suicide while he sizes up suckers and grabs whatever he can reach. Stringing a crime spree into a necklace of notches and a gun. Sent from Hollywood heaven is what the preachers say. Discernment splintered in prisms of stained glass. Tiki torches and stone cold faces and riots and rubble as everyone races to hiding places that shape shift into seats on a train to oblivion.
Wonderful.
The next poem is a little more upbeat, relatively speaking. It's called Drinking Bleach. He's pushing his grocery cart toward me. Hot Pockets, Cheetos, a 12-pack of beer, pasty-faced and prematurely balding with a bushy beard to compensate, frowning like someone tricked him into eating a pickle. He's literally wearing a frigging gun holstered at his waist. Going to Publix packing heat gun, daring someone to pull on me gun. 12 feet away, his triggers cocked, awaiting the president's tweet declaring open season on liberals, finally. And here I am, a big fat squirrel, a deer in headlights wearing a shirt, Trump for prison, and looking like an immigrant gay Nancy Pelosi incarnation of what needs to be killed, gutted, and strapped across the hood like an offering on the altar. I tighten my bandana, shut the trunk, too late. He's in my face and says, ditch the mask. The president opened America. Some things even a sip of Clorox can't kill.
That's wonderful.
Thank you. The next one, Pulling the Cat's Tail. I can't stream the news today. All the screens scream howling cats. Republicans dance like bank robbers. Democrats arrange deck chairs on the Titanic. Antarctica is hotter than LA. Chunk by chunk, Greenland slips in the sea. Preachers play whack-a-mole with the devil. Oligarchs build riot bunkers with wine cellars. Voting machines are replaced by Wheel of Fortune. All the answers on Jeopardy are lies. Plagues queue up to carry us away, bundled in death, the ironic rescue helicopter. I stick my fingers in my ears, shut my eyes. I stick a needle in my arm, pray for a saucer of milk.
Wow.
Here's one a little more upbeat, relatively speaking. God, the day drinker. God's the kind of guy you want to have a pint with. I always perch on the stool beside him. I'll have what he's saying, I say to the bartender. God thinks that's pretty funny. Don't believe that word of God stuff. He's not a talker. Mention politics and he throws a shoe at Fox News. Bring up religion and he starts ordering shots. Used to, I'd visit the bar but wouldn't see him. These days, he's there till closing time. I heard he was downsized or on disability, and that's why no one runs things anymore. Recently, he switched from beer to martinis. He's fond of olives. They're salty, like tears. I hear he's ordering a round for everyone, but without instructions for an arc. And my last poem, which is also the last one in the book and is appropriate for this coming week, is Constitutional Crisis. Did we dream them or did they dream us? Pussy-grabbing president, angry red hats. It's easy to imagine the emperor clothed. Just close your eyes, lock and load. But it's all going to turn out well, right? Sure. Inhale, exhale, salute.
Wow. Wonderful, Mike.
Thank you, Mike.
That is really great. Now,
Great.
hold up the book one more time.
Yeah.
Arranging deck chair. And that's actually an actual ballerina on the Titanic. I love that book cover. So you can get Mike's book at rabbithousepress.com or the same place, the bookstores, local bookstores, Amazon, and all of that. So Mike, this book is clearly very political for this moment, but it will always remind us of these last 4 years. So thank you.
Thank you all.
Okay, everyone, we are now going to introduce to you Bruce Lewis. Bruce is actually my cousin. That's the exciting fun fact.
Nepotism.
Nepotism. His mother, Mimi Lewis, and my father, Dan Chandler, are brother and sister. But anyway, that has nothing to do with the brilliance of why we're so excited to publish this book. Joshua Fragmented is, Bruce is a well-known musician around town and around the world. And this book, Joshua Fragmented, happens to be about a musician who lived for several decades in Budapest. And ironically, Bruce lived for several decades in Budapest. And so
That's as
Bruce,
far as it goes.
yeah, that's as far as it goes. Bruce, tell us before you read from your book, tell us just a little bit about Joshua Fragmented, which is coming out in probably January 2021.
Okay. It's really difficult to say one thing about it. I think it's about the limitations of, I've always thought it was a little bit about the limitations of what people can do for each other. And it's also a book about betrayal in a way. And what I'm going to read But it's much more than that. I think it's also about what you don't know about somebody. But the reason why I use the word fragmented, one of the reasons why, is because it sort of depicts a kind of nomadic life that we modern people live. Nobody lives in the same place, and everybody's moving around. And this is, his case, which I actually experienced quite a bit myself. But what happened to me was when I was writing letters home and communicating with people in the early days of email, I suddenly realized that I was really telling a story, not just about myself, but about a character that I was making up in my head. That I also, in a way, I wanted to be. Also, I feared I was, and different aspects. And so I began to develop characters. This is something about novel writing, I guess, that you could maybe take in, but characters that intersected in certain ways. And I took people from real life, but I sort of threw them all in a big pot and stirred it around and changed things around.
It's very interesting. I'll let you read now, but it goes between this traveling musician world around America and around Europe, but also the flashbacks to growing up in a town that's like Versailles, but named something else, and living on the farm. And it's just and this family life and growing up on a farm is just gorgeous. So I don't know what you're going to read now, but I'm really excited for everybody to read it. Okay, so I'm going to mute myself and take it away.
Okay, well, one thing I wanted to say about that was another part of the nomadic life, that sort of loss of the innocence of the agricultural world that I grew up in.
Yes, yes.
So anyway, it's full of expulsion from the garden type themes. Anyway. But that's only one aspect.
I was just reading Wendell Berry's book and talking about Hannah Coulter, and it was so the same themes. I was like, oh my God, I've just reading this in Bruce's book, because it is about the death of the farmer, that way of life, in a way.
One other quick thing. I also realized I've been reading Lawrence Durrell's book, Alexandria Quartet again. I just read the first one. It's called Justine many years ago. And my wife really liked the whole 4-novel, quartet, as he calls it. And so she said, her eyes are bad now. So, I read aloud to her sometimes. And she wanted to hear that again. And I started revisiting Justine, and I realized I kind of lifted a lot of things from that book.
Cool, cool.
Unconsciously in a way. But anyway, so this is when the main character, Joshua Celeste, is a small child, and he's in the living room with his mother, who's working on a jigsaw puzzle. And it also mentions his grandmother, Millicent, who's not a major character in the book, but she shows up in it. This is when he's a little kid. Josh, restless with the rainy day, walked slowly toward his mother and waited. She felt his small child's presence in the room, and after a few moments, she spoke gently to him without looking up from her jigsaw puzzle. Why don't you look at the book Millicent gave you? Or go upstairs and play Zorro? This was his favorite game, to imagine himself as that Spanish Robin Hood, running through the upstairs bedrooms, up and down the halls on his horse's back, protecting the family, tilting at villains with his pencil sword, a towel for a cape Agnes, his mother, had pinned to his back with a safety pin. But tiring of this, he opened what seemed to be like a forbidden door that led up to the attic, a different color from everything else in the old house. As he walked up the narrow wooden stairs with the yellow afternoon light streaming through the transom, he slowly forgot about his Zorro game and his bad guys. He took off his hat and cape and put his pencil in his back pocket, as if they were childish things that needed discarding. He felt a nervousness and yet a thrill. It made him suddenly want to pee, but he held it. The urge passed as he fell into a daydream. What wonders there were here. Racks of old clothes, discarded toys from Christmases past, stacks of magazines that Agnes, like her mother Millicent, could never throw away for fear of losing an important recipe, a pattern for a dress, or an article about an old friend from her showbiz days. He picked up a copy with Betty Hutton on the cover. A brown spider ran out and down a crack in the floor. He tried to fish it out with his pencil, but the spider was too fast. He remembered Kiki LaSalle at the kindergarten playground, how she wasn't afraid of spiders. She liked them because they tickled when she put them on her arms. He wanted to know if it was true. It made him feel sad that a spider should run away. He tried on his mother's hats, her high-heeled shoes. Marshall's, that's his father, heavy winter coat, his old cracked boots, his worn-out slippers. He looked into the warped, dusty mirror. How strange he looked to himself. He placed the veil from his mother's velvet hat over his face. He liked the dark, shadowy look it gave him, like his father's blue jaw. Yet he was a woman like his mother. He sat down in an old easy chair, the stuffing coming out of the sides and the side. He looked at the grown-up coat sleeves that covered his hands, the grown-up shoes that swallowed his feet, the womanly hat that covered his face and smelled of his mother's perfume. Was he a grown-up now? He found a box of jewelry and ran his hands through it like a pirate he'd seen in a pirate movie on TV. Was this bad? Pirates are all dead now, he thought. And if there were any, the good guys would shoot them all. He saw a ring with a circle of diamonds around it and tried to put it on his finger. It was too big. He tried his thumb. It stuck. He pulled. It still stuck. He panicked for a moment until he remembered seeing Marshall use a little spit to take it off his ring one night in the bathroom when he came home shouting, laughing, and stumbling. Didn't know Josh was there. Josh tried a little spit. It came off. He giggled. Mama will never know. His heart leaped. He looked up and saw the sun glare red against the windows. The huge limbs of poplar, elm, and pine swayed in gentle evening breezes that smelled of the coming rains. The sky darkened. What secret did it hold, refusing to tell? What secret lay in the silence of the attic? It made him want to pee again, but he dared not. He knew his mother would fuss and make him change his clothes. The center room, built into the east-facing wall that looked out over the yard, was the smallest. This was his favorite. Here was the big toy box made of wood and cardboard and covered in red plastic with animals and circus characters drawn on the sides. 3 lions standing before the lion tamer with his whip. The lady acrobat with full curved breasts diving into space, her crinoline sequins costume like a bird's wing. A monkey swinging from its tail. He looked out the little window, just his height, and watched the sky darken over the luxurious rolling expanse of yard. He noticed a little bird's nest in the eaves, a robin, its breast the color of sunset, flickered in with a piece of straw in its mouth. It looked at him fearfully. Why? He lunged at it playfully and it flew away. For a moment he felt sad. Why did it fly away? We could play. He craned his neck to see what was inside. The need to pee in him rose again. He looked. He was startled to see the 3 little blue eggs. He wanted to possess them. He saw the mother robin curving back in flight through a grove just beyond the yard. What if he could reach them, he thought, hatch them, become a bird himself? Then he saw his father's truck pulling slowly into the asphalt driveway. Josh, he heard his mother call. Come down. Your father's home and supper will be ready soon. Come down, darling. How did she know he was up there, he wondered. Josh, oh, Josh. He didn't know why, but he always waited for her to call once more before he answered.
Wonderful. Thank you, Bruce.
Beautiful,
My
Bruce.
pleasure. Thank
Lovely.
you for having me.
Very lovely.
I'm so excited. So Joshua Fragmented will come out in January 2021. We have one more treat for anyone who's listening. First of all, I want to tell you that I'm so proud at what Brooke Lee and I've done with Rabbit House Press. Brooke couldn't make it here today, but she's my partner in Rabbit House Press. And we are very excited of these brilliant authors and more to come. And what I'm really trying to do is create this kind of community of wonderful artists. And so we can all support each other with their writing. And if anybody wants to know more about our authors in these books, go to rabbithousepress.com. All this will be on our YouTube channel, Rabbit House Press, and join and subscribe to the YouTube channel, please. And we just want to say happy November 1st. We're going to close this session with a poem by Lane Dearinger. But does anybody else want to say anything to each other to close our
Thank
November?
you all for the reading. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you all.
Thank all of you. Thank you.
Everybody's material was very, very good.
I think so too.
I thought maybe you'd forgotten about doing this. If we're doing it at the end, so if it's really terrible, you can cut it out.
No, I'm not that suave with the editing tools yet, but I know it's not because you're brilliant. So, okay,
My
Kevin,
apologies
take us on home.
to the other poets in the room, but this is a poem about writing, and it's also an attempt to salute some of the poets and the poetry that have stayed with me. It's called Invitation. Speak it out, they cry, hunkered down tight on the page like children in a hiding hole. Trace with your tongue the topography of sound. Rehearse with your lips the snap and pull of alliterative astonishment. And touch with your mouth the morning cold wetness of juxtaposed words that pour, roar, leap, and soar across a blank page, from head and heart in yearning lines across the universe, filament, 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 arcing, unapologetic and ambitious toward the stern rock walls of eternity, man, proud man. And thrown back again transformed, flying into face, feet, hand, gut, crotch, or circling round to cradle in your lap like a restless cat settling down to dream. Release the pent-up meter that races in your rhythmic foot, boxcar, 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 ballet leaping in a blur, running riot with implication, concrete and liquid, set down unsettled in type, acrobatic vowels stretching between tactile consonants, be stone no more. Speak the words of incantation that sing because they need to shout the song that must be sung or lost to the hollow midnight, or flung into the furnace echo of cowardly noonday flight, flailing for grace and life into the air and breath of time and history lost. Speak it, they cry, with the will and wish of the seldom heard, the unloved and the unlooked for guests of memory and desire. Little boys behaving well, and restless malcontents tumbling footnoted in the rumblings of sour need, with the flypaper buzz of ambiguity and the tumescent adhesion of a place you almost recall as a sudden relic sacred to the ordinary. I'm nobody. Who? Speak it out, they cry, from the womb of thought into the world that cannot bear to listen or produce the pure, unimpedimenting thought. The Dorian gray dead rising into recognition, and the thought unspoken rattled out in the dusk, like smiling snakes, demonic in a fallen faith. Speak it out, they cry, into the rooms, the halls, the streets, the stars. And here, the small and still, it seeks the great and wild. As I crouch low and wait in terrified defiance. So there it is.
Very nice.
Wow, thank
nice.
you. Thank you, Kevin.
Yay! So
Yay.
And there will be a quiz on the fragments I used.
what that makes me feel is just this is joy of writing, and that's why we write, I think, and that's why Erin has published So thank you, Erin, for giving us all that ability.
Oh,
And
thank
Kevin
you.
for putting it into such wonderful words.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, happy November 1st, everyone. Thanks, everybody who listened.
Thank you,
See
Erin.
you again soon.
Thank you, Erin.
Mwah.
Thank you,
Thank you.
everyone.
Yes,
Good night, everybody.
right.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Good luck, everybody.
Yes.